So as I'm sure you all know by now, San Diego Comic-Con's Hall H Marvel panel flooded the world of comic movie news, and everybody's talking about it. Specifically, the whole slew of new titles that our boy Spikemeister dropped in the now official roadmap for the MCU's Phase 5, and even a little bit of Phase 6. So now we're wondering, what does all of that mean for the MCU going forward? What is the main focus of Phase 5 and 6? And where is all of this going? Well, first off, he kind of shortened Phase 4 a bit, which means that it's now ending this year with She-Hulk as its last Disney Plus show, and Wakanda Forever, which is released on November 11th in the US. After that, we're already in 2023, which is packed with 8 to 9 out of the 12 titles that will make up Phase 5, so there's plenty of stuff to look forward to, but it might get a little dense if you're a casual watcher. The year will be kickstarted by Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania on February 17th, which will feature the next appearance of Kang as a villain, but on top of that we're also probably going to get our first look at MODOK in the MCU, who may or may not be played by Bill Murray, so that's fun. The second entry of Phase 5 will then likely be the Disney Plus show Secret Invasion, which is scheduled to be released sometime in spring, so that we'll all get to play Who's a Skrull, or Who Just Pretends to Be a Skrull. Probably everybody, maybe nobody. Who knows? See, it's already fun. Next up we'll get Guardians Volume 3 on May 5th, which will be Gunn's last entry into the franchise, so we can probably expect some good tearjerkers, some final goodbyes, and apparently a darn cute baby Rocket. So that's nice. The Disney Plus series Echo will then likely kick off the summer season, progressing the street level side of the MCU and the events that took place in last year's Hawkeye. Also sometime in summer, Loki Season 2 will drop, where we can expect to have a good time on the other end of the spectrum, meaning some more time travel and multiverse stuff, and in the middle of it all, Kang once again. The Marvels featuring Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel and Photon is set to close the summer season, playing in theaters starting with July 28th, with Kamala's story progressing from her own show and Photon of course coming from WandaVision, with the three of them probably engaging in a story set on a more cosmic scale. Back on Earth, we'll get our first look at Mahershala Ali's Blade on November 3rd. Introducing a new darker side to the MCU, we might also get to see Kit Harington's Black Knight to appear alongside the half-vampire, half-human. Around that time, we'll also get the Disney Plus series Ironheart in fall, focusing on Riri Williams, who steps into the footsteps of none other than Tony Stark's Iron Man. Before that though, we'll get to see her making her first appearance this year in Wakanda Forever. Closing the year, or maybe even starting 2024, we get Agatha House of Harkness. What's that? Coven of Chaos. Why the name change? What's wrong with House of Harkness? Following, of course, the events of WandaVision, where Agatha was left imprisoned in Westview, with many now wondering whether the end of Multiverse of Madness might have set her free. Spring 2024 will be the time when we'll get a whopping 18 episodes of Daredevil. That's right, continuing Matt Murdock's journey as what will probably be a soft reboot from his Netflix series, Born Again will likely pick up the street-level storyline that spanned She-Hulk and Echo beforehand. On May 3rd, 2024, with New World Order, we're going to get our 4th Captain America installment, with the first one featuring Sam Wilson as the new Cap. And finally, a time span-wise short but very dense Phase 5 comes to a close with Thunderbolts on July 26th, featuring what will probably be an anti-hero team under the command of Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, in a Suicide Squad-esque story. Phew, that's a bunch of screen time, but hold your horses, we're not quite there yet, because Feige not only gave us the complete entry list for Phase 5, we also got to see some teases for Phase 6. From what we know from Comic-Con, Phase 6 will feature 11 titles, one of the first of which will be the highly anticipated Fantastic Four movie. Then we've got 8 yet unknown entries, followed by the big finale of the Multiverse Saga, that is Phase 4 through 6, Avengers Kang Dynasty, and Avengers Secret Wars. Okay, so now that we know what's coming, the main question that remains is how are we going to get there? Before we can guess about the future though, we need to take a quick look into the past, specifically Phase 4 and Comic-Con. See, after Infinity War and Endgame, serving as the Infinity Saga grand finale, Feige wanted Phase 4 to reset the MCU in order to serve as a fresh start for the Multiverse Saga. His game plan for Phase 4 thus seems to have included some experimentation with the movies, which in general seemed to take a more director-driven approach and gave us a stronger creative vision with Chloe Zhao's Eternals, Sam Raimi's Multiverse of Madness, and Taika Waititi with Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, while fans were definitely eager to see Marvel changing things up a bit, the reception of these movies was not great, which understandably left some fans a bit frustrated. What might have added to this is that up until Comic-Con, that is, almost throughout the entirety of Phase 4, Marvel didn't really provide us with a clear direction where things were headed. See, with so many projects being released each year, it's clear that fans don't just want to see a certain entry for its own sake alone anymore. We also want to be able to make educated guesses as to how each new project progresses the overall narrative of a given saga. Think of the Thanos moment in Avengers. A brief appearance at best, but carrying a lot of implications for what's to come. A clear direction like this is what I feel lacked most in Phase 4, which is also probably why Feige revealed all of Phase 4 and the end goal for Phase 6 at the SDCC in the first place. Well, that, and maybe also because of the trademark leaks, where a bunch of new licensed names got onto the public, so who knows. Now, to be fair, Feige did mention prior to Comic-Con that from his point of view, plenty of hints were dropped already. And now that we know where all of this is heading, Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, I think it's worth asking, what hints was he talking about? The hints of Phase 4. Okay, so what we're going to do here is take a brief look back at Phase 4 and scan for hints that might have led us to a big Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars theory down the line. Alright, so first off, we've obviously got Loki. He Who Remains rather explicitly took a center stage here as a Kang variant, and the big bad of the show, while also introducing us to his MCU origin, which we've already dissected more than we probably should have in our Multiverse Explained series. Next up, we've got Moon Knight. That's right, we actually get to see a teeny tiny little hint there as well with the logo on this guy's jacket. How is that a Kang reference? Well, it's basically a callback to his time as Rama-Tut, an Egyptian pharaoh, whom we sadly didn't get to see in the show. As for Secret Wars, I'm sure a bunch of you already picked up the hint that Multiverse of Madness' Reed Richards dropped when he talked about incursions, the result of realities colliding, which serves as the key conflict in one of the Secret Wars iterations. And while we're on the subject of Secret Wars stories, remember the one where a bunch of characters got summoned from the multiverse to battle it out together? Now, I don't know about you, but that to me seems an awful lot like the finale we got in What If. Alright, that one might be a bit of a stretch, but you could at least argue that it might be an homage. I don't know. But speaking of things we don't quite know yet, what about that beacon at the end of Shang-Chi? That seemed like a big tease. Okay, I'll admit, I'm not sure how that'll fit into Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars in the long run, but it'll better do something. Oh, and what about this one? Peggy Carter's Captain Britain. See, in the comics, Captain Britain belongs to the Britain Corps, which just so happens to be founded by Merlin himself. That's right. And what for? Well, to protect the multiverse, of course. What's that? Hayley Atwell wasn't actually intended to be Captain Britain? Well, Marvel, if you're listening, I'm just saying, pretty good opportunity just lying around here. Now that we know what Phase 4 kind of hinted to us, let's go back to the main question at hand. How do the Phase 5 movies lead into the finale of the Multiverse Saga? In the Infinity Saga, we got our little Thanos smirk at the end of the Avengers, strongly hinting towards the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, and then throughout the saga we got Infinity Stones popping up every now and again, serving as a sort of through line across the whole saga until we got the big bad himself starting to act in the finale. So what I want to do now is to go through the lineup so that we can all guess where we might get further hints for our big climax. But what exactly are we looking for? Well, since we again know that all of this will culminate in Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, we know that we are at least looking for Kang variants and mentionings of incursions, which in our assumption will take the place of the Infinity Stones in the Multiverse Saga. The hints of Phase 5. Alright, so first of all, we've obviously got Quantumania to look out for, since we again already know that Kang will be part of this story. Our next hint might actually come from Guardians 3. See, ever since Mr. Fantastic told Strange in Multiverse of Madness that his presence in the universe could lead to an incursion, we've been wondering. In Endgame, 2014 Gamora stayed in the main universe, putting herself in a situation much like Strange found himself in Multiverse of Madness. So could she actually be the accidental cause of an incursion? Or at least present the main universe with the danger of one? We'll definitely keep our eyes out for that one. The next one down the list might be pretty obvious again. Loki Season 2. Here we definitely expect some Kang variant shenanigans. Oh, and for that matter, also some answers about how the whole TVA situation works. Again, for more info on what's on the table, check out our Loki Season 1 video. The Marvels might push the story along a bit as well. I'm not quite sure how exactly, but I get the feeling that a cosmic scale movie might be a good place to examine when you're looking for some hints. Alright, now the next one might be a bit of a stretch, but hear me out. Ironheart. Okay, so if you're already familiar with Iron Lad, you probably know where I'm going with this one. See, this guy also filled the shoes of Iron Man a bit in the comics, and he actually turns out to be a Kang variant himself. So, I mean, between Ironheart and Iron Lad, it's not too far of a stretch. Okay, but that actually kind of already brings us to the end of our list, with one potential candidate missing. Agatha, Coven of Chaos. That's right, with the show's inherent connection to Wanda and thus the multiverse, we might get to see or hear a bit about incursions here as well. Alright, so that's actually it for us for Phase 5. If you think we've missed anything so far, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments down below. We'd love to hear from you. Our speculations for Phase 6. From the Comic-Con presentation, we already know that the entirety of Phase 6 is going to feature 11 entries, some of which will be movies, others Disney Plus shows. With Feige also announcing that from now on, Avengers movies are only going to play at the end of a saga. Okay, so I'm thinking out of these 8 entries, we're probably going to get at least 4, probably closer to 5 Disney Plus shows, judging by the ratios we've got in Phase 4 and 5. So this would leave us with about 3 to 4 remaining films, for which I think a very strong contender would be the heavily rumored The Mutants movie. And while we're on the subject of former Fox properties, how about the Deadpool 3 entry? I'd say it's about damn time we get the Merc with the mouth into the MCU. Since these 3 IPs, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and Deadpool, stood at the center of the Fox acquisition way back when, I'd say these are solid guesses, especially with Fantastic Four already confirmed. But we also need to think about potential sequels. Now here's where it gets tricky, since we've got a ton of options. However, I also think that out of all of these, Shang-Chi 2 and Eternals 2 might make the mix. Shang-Chi was a huge success and ended with a beacon sending out a signal into the cosmos, so we need to follow that up with something. And Eternals gave us Harry Styles' Star Fox and Patton Oswalt's Pip the Troll, and with Star Fox being the brother of the former center of the power in the universe, Thanos, I'd say there's a good chance we might get to see him again in Phase 6. Okay, so let's close the movies section here with some honorable mentions. Thor 5. We already know a Thor will return. Doctor Strange 3. Since he's so close to the multiverse side of the MCU, which will probably play an important role for the finale since Kang's a multiversal villain too. And finally, what about Namor? We already know that we're going to get his introduction in Wakanda Forever, so there might be a chance of him continuing that storyline. Alright, let's see what we can come up with for the Disney Plus shows. My first guess would actually be Nova, since it's already confirmed by Deadline that Moon Knight showrunner Sabir Prasada is working on it. Next up, I think we might actually get that Young Avengers entry. It's quite clear that Marvel's been setting up young protégés for established characters left and right, so what's keeping them from joining forces in an epic team-up? And finally, Armor Wars, which funny enough was already announced but apparently didn't make the cut in Phase 5, but its showrunner, Yasir Lester, did confirm that it's going to happen, so I guess we're probably going to get it in Phase 6. The good thing is that we probably won't have to speculate for too long, since we might get some more of that Phase 6 lineup at D23, which coincidentally is also right around the corner starting with September 9th. So until then, which Phase 6 movies and Disney Plus shows would you like to see? And what do you think about Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars for the culmination of the Multiverse Saga? Leave us your thoughts in the comments down below and subscribe so you can join us next time when we explore the canon of your favorite cosmic. Goodbye.